Hi Amy. Okay, so here's your past life, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did for the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and feelings involved, another important day, the death, and the lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout, okay? So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that I'm getting, and your job is going to be to try to make connections wherever you can from what we get here to your current life, and I'll try to help however I can with that too. Okay, so let's start here. Let's start here, and this is the Asia card. I'll try to get it so you could see it with the light. There we go. So here we're going to Asia. Obviously that encompasses a lot of countries. So what it very much feels like though is that we are looking at a female life of more of a higher class, potentially royalty, but just definitely like aristocracy or whatever they would consider much higher up, like a very well-to-do family or a very old family. So we're seeing, and we're being brought into her life, into young womanhood. Feels like a puberty time is where we're starting. Sometimes we start at childhood, sometimes we start at different, various ages in people's lives, but here it's like a kind of like puberty, young woman kind of thing. And what it does feel like is we're going somewhere it feels very like Japan. It would feel like a Japanese thing versus like China even, or anywhere south. It feels like we're going to the it feels like a this small kingdom basically, and it feels like Japan. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're looking again at royalty or aristocracy, but I'm just trying to get a little bit more. It feels like honestly, it feels like a very, very high up family, where if there were two royal families, you'd be the second one. Like that kind of thing. Almost like a distant cousin of the royal family, if that makes sense. So what they're showing me is it's just how I'm seeing you. Is this woman walking through a corridor, and there's I feel like there's like these two guards, or like there's guards around her, like something about her safety, but not that it's in jeopardy, just that it's very calm, like. And I want you to Google this if you can. If they did have something like bodyguards in Japan, or if they do when it comes to higher up citizens or wealthy families or royalty, see if they do the bodyguard thing. But it feels like it feels like she's always being watched over. So there's something about her not having time to herself. So how you could be making connections already, for example, would be one, do you love Japan? So there's like that simple thing. Oh, are you pulled towards Japan, Japanese culture, language, food, people? If you see photos of Japan or read stories of Japan, history or whatever, does it trigger you emotionally? Are you very interested? Do you find that you decorate in Japanese style or like Japanese decor? Or seeing the Japanese figures, like have you thought of getting a tattoo in a Japanese figure, like what do they call it, letters or sounds or whatever it is. Now to take it a step further, and if not, that's fine, but that's just the type of connections to be looking out for too, something simple like that as well. We can be seeing connections where you might be someone that really values your privacy and values being alone, your alone time. When you get to take a breath somewhere, it's very like valued and appreciated. You might be someone who might drive without music just to have some quiet time in your own head. You might also be someone who does not like, I don't know about not liking crowds, but it's like just someone who's maybe seeking alone time, or feels like you don't get enough alone time. And if that's the case, this life would be coming up as a partial message for you to find more alone time, because it feels very much like it's needed or valued or something therapeutic. Doing things for yourself is important. So I feel like that would be partially the message here, if that speaks to you. Now, let's go to, well, before we go there, I do want to mention like the dress attire. We're looking like, because I think it might help with historical placing, because we're looking at a woman who is wearing, okay, so it's long material. The material is pale pink. There's white pattern, small white pattern on a pale pink material. I can't quite place if it is a kimono style or a robe style, but it feels like it's not very fitted. It feels like it hangs. And this is all things that hopefully, you know, if you Google it, you can find dress attire throughout the eras in Japan and hopefully place the, you know, if this pale pink I'm seeing is like a popular color during a specific era, or the type of dress is popular. The dress feels like there is something over it, like a robe over this dress. So, I mean, that can just indicate, you know, that I'm looking at a colder scene, or like a fall scene or something. But we're looking at her walking through an open corridor. So it's like a corridor where there's a roof, but the windows to the side, it's like open. The building's made of, it feels like a stone building. Like there's a garden. So it feels like a very much like a like, not, I guess like a palace, but not the palace, but a palace. Like it feels like a very palatial place where there's gardens and there's walking areas. So it's a very large property. Her hair is up. So the style is going to be up. It's going to be a rolled looking fashion, and it feels very much like there are multiple rolls of her hair rolled up to the top middle-ish part of her head. So look for those styles historically, like on Google or whatever, and see if you can make a match, because that's always fun and validating when you can match the styles. So it doesn't feel like how we consider ancient, but it does feel far back, where it's not what we consider modern at all. Like unless she's dressed up for like a special occasion, which they still dress in traditional garb for those, I believe. But this feels like we're going back at least a couple centuries at least. So keep that in mind. So let's go to what you did with the majority of your time. Here we have Life at Sea. Oops, there we go. Can you see that? There. So Life at Sea card. Now a lot of times this indicates like, oh, the captain of a ship, or someone that works with imports, or, you know, they're in the Navy or whatever it is. For this, I feel like the reason we're getting this is just because her life revolved very much around her country. And I feel like the sea, the ocean for Japan, is a big resource, period, just for what they use for it, just how they utilize it. So I feel like her family, this woman, your past life, whatever, their family is tied to the country. So what it's feeling like, as I'm saying that and it's developing, it feels like her family, generations back, so her father now, it's almost like there's something where they're tied into politics, where they have a say in politics, where they have a, like, almost like if it's like he has sway with the emperor, he has sway with making laws, or not just making laws, but like, what's it called? Having influence. So it feels like this family influences the country in various ways. So that's where I feel like Life at Sea. So it's, and here's the thing, this young woman that we're looking at, the reason why I feel like this card is coming up is because her role in the country's, whatever you want to call it, will be marriage. So her role is, she's going to be used, it feels very much like she's going to be used for like her dowry, or her influential name, or whatever it is. She's going to be something that bridges things, or that ties families together, that creates something like something powerful, like, you know, more influence with the law, or this or that. Like basically her marriage is going to make something happen. So I feel like that's why she is tied to the country, and that is her role in this life, so to speak. Not her purpose, but her role. So throughout the day, I feel like what they're showing me now is more like her preparing to be a proper bride. So we get this like Mulan feel kind of thing, like if you've seen that movie. It's just like where she's learning to sew properly, or she's learning to do these like embroideries or these dainty female things. And it's not that, it's like she's good at it because she was bred to be good at it, if that makes sense. So she's very proper and knows everything she's supposed to know. She answers things very correctly, very diplomatic, that kind of thing. Knows when to be quiet. So this all can indicate several things for you in your current life. How you can connect is, one, there is a distinctly female energy about this woman. So it's not, there's nothing in her that like wants to like break free and, be a man and there's nothing like that, which we've gotten before. She understands the role and she appreciates the role because she appreciates what she has. So, and there's a distinctly feminine edge to her. So that can be a connection right there, where you have a distinctly feminine edge or appreciation for the female, for the feminine force. And to take it a step further, though, that also might mean that you're a feminist in the way of like what is proper for women today you feel like should be expanded, or maybe you're part of the expansion of how women are defined, or what defines femininity or feminism, if that makes sense. So basically, what it feels like is it can connect to you in the way of you might be part of the feminist movement or moving femininity forward in some way. And I feel like if you connect with that, that would be part of your life's purpose, like your role here in this current time in history you may have picked to incarnate in this time in history, just because of the opportunity that you would have, or that your soul would have, to move feminism, or the idea of what is feminine, forward. Because here it was like you had to be demure, you had to be quiet, you had to know your place, and so you learned everything. It's like you learned the foundation here of femininity, and then you came back into this time to just take that a step forward and have a voice. So in this life, you might find that you very much want to express yourself and have a voice and be heard. And yeah, everyone does want to be heard. I understand that. But it would tie back to this person who wasn't able to express themselves. So we're looking at you today, who might have a bit of a fire in her belly to move things forward for feminism. Like when I repeat myself, that's just them repeating themselves, so to speak. So it's like that's all I can really say about that. But if you can connect with that, great. And if not, that's fine. But that's what's coming through. Also, might as well mention life at sea. You might be someone that is very involved in your community. You might really enjoy the community aspect of things, because that's what her life was about, was her land, her people. And how that translates into our current time would be someone who does get involved in the community. It doesn't necessarily mean volunteering, it can, but it can be something as simple as just enjoying the feel of living in a community-based lifestyle, if that makes sense. So like rather than, in the city where you don't know your neighbors, you might like the idea of walking into town and seeing the shop owner and knowing them, like that kind of thing. But this also might mean you volunteer, or it might mean that you host gatherings, or you bring people together. That would make sense as well, because this person very much knew how to host. So you might be a really good hostess, a really good someone who makes the home environment warm and welcoming, not just to your family, but to outsiders as well. So keep that in mind. One more thing about this life at sea could simply be also as well that the water, ocean, river, lake, bodies of water. This would be the ocean, but it could be bodies of water, might be very influential to you, might be therapeutic, might be where you want to go, if you need to think, if you need to be alone, if you need to consider something, come up with an idea, whatever it is. This might be coming up as well as a message for you to go to the water. Go to the water. It will be very soothing for your soul. So, let's go to the first important day. So here we have the Wowzer card. Let's see if you can see that. I like this card because it means something big is happening on a soul level. Something new is being introduced. There's an idea. There's something happening, or you see something that's kind of like out of your norm. The relationship involved in this is spouse. So we're going to see what this is. It could be your spouse, could be something else. And then the feelings here is torn. So what I'm getting here is that we are looking at the time that has come for you to be married off. So we're looking at an arranged marriage again, which can connect to you in a way where you feel like female women should have more of a voice, more expression, more independence, more choices. You might have been part of those women's marches, or you at least were triggered by them. Things that where females are kept back or held back or dictated to may trigger you. Domestic violence may be a big issue for you. Here we're seeing arranged marriage. This is part of your duty, so it's not overly traumatic, but it is the first time where you are being, what's it called, like your soul is being expanded in a way of awareness, because up until now it's only been theory, it's only been idea. Now the time has come, and this day it feels very much like we are looking at a very lavish ceremony, a very, very rich, lavish wedding. And it feels like there are lots of people. It feels like there's lots of decor, many flowers, so much. There's a lot of, it feels very much like a spring, because it feels like there's a lot of light colors, lots of white and pink, yellow, even like maybe baby green or blue. Look up, I'd want you to Google and see what kind of weddings that the royal or wealthy Japanese had, like how they decorated would be great. I'd love for you to check that out, because it feels like, check and see if the springtime weddings had a lot of these like light flowers. It feels, here's the thing, it's beautiful and it's etheric almost, and you're kind of blown away by it. You're like, wow, this is more than I even imagined. So where the torn feelings come in is when you realize, like, this man you're approaching, and this man you're being led to be your husband, it just hits you that you don't know him, you've never even spoken to him, and you've never seen him, and even though it's your duty and you hold yourself together very well, it hits you like on a deep level you've never been aware of before, just how like new this is to your life, and you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know how he's going to treat you, you don't know if you're going to, what's it called, fulfill your duty, but also have like happiness, even though it's like expected of you to be happy just because you're marrying into this very wealthy arrangement, very awesome arrangement for, what they consider just like top notch. So why wouldn't you be happy, right? But this is deeper. This isn't about the happiness expected of you from your family. This is about like a soul happiness. So we see you for the first time in your life as a young woman listening to your soul, like hearing your soul's voice, your intuition, your higher self finally coming through in a way where you kind of heed it. You know what I mean? Like you're actually paying attention to it rather than just going about doing your duty. Not that you can do anything. It's not like you're like, oh, I want to run away or anything. It's just that you're feeling torn, and where before you might have dismissed those feelings, here it's such a big deal. This is a life-changing day for you that you are listening to your inner voice basically out of fear or out of like nervousness, because you're so uncertain, and you're not uncertain in who you are, which by the way, in your current life, you might be very connected to yourself, very intuitive, very connected, know who you are, know what you want out of life, know what you're doing, know what you're passionate about, you go after it, that kind of thing. But here, you couldn't do that. You just, for the first time, became connected with yourself, but you aren't able to do anything about it, which means that in your current life, you might have chosen, again, this time period in history to come into this life so that you can actually do something with the voice in your head or in your heart. You know what I mean? So, anyway, so we're looking at this arranged marriage. And it's a good marriage. It's what they consider a good marriage. Like, it's not that they would marry you off to anyone just for money, because there's something also about, like, there's something about blessings involved in a marriage. So they also, your parents, when I say they, your parents, it feels like they arranged it for you because it would also be like a blessing of a marriage. Like, they think that this person would also be good for you, because they don't want to just marry you off, like, and have you be miserable just to, like, form a financial union, period. There's also other aspects involved. So you are initially happy. Like, you are happy, not just initially. I mean, it feels very solid. But this day is just there's so much turmoil, because again, it's the first time you're hearing that inner voice, and it's a wowzer. Well, here, it's a wow day. So that would explain the wow card, because you're like, oh my God, there is more to me than just duty. There's this voice inside me that is trying to tell me something. That's a big deal. So we're seeing a step up on a soul level of you understanding that there is a deeper level of you, if that makes sense. So this also feels like a connection has been made. So in your current life, you could be someone that very much is very intuitive, very, like, able to hear that inner voice of yours. And if you feel like you're not, you are. So you just need to pay attention, because you are very connected. So you have to, lean into it, rely on it, give yourself credit. You know what I mean? Like don't say, oh no, that's, I'm not connected, or that's just my, that's just a fear speaking, or that's just, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that don't discredit your inner voice. Don't discredit your intuition. Lean into it, especially now. That's what I'm trying to say. So, the next important day. Here we have the move, 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 let's go card. And then the feeling here is friends. I mean, the relationship is friends. I'm trying to get it where you can see it. Jeez Louise, it's dark. And then the feelings involved is neutral. Wait, there we go. So what's happening is what we're seeing over the years after the marriage is a bit of decline in passion and in, let's see what I'm trying to say here. Basically, it feels like we're looking at someone who is slowly becoming depressed, but not having a way to articulate what it is. So that we're feeling like a slow depression without having the word of being depressed, because it feels like, so you're living in another very beautiful place. You have to establish yourself as the woman of the house, which is not hard. But what I'm getting at, what's very much involved are the people around you. So it feels like you moved pretty decently far from your home, even though you're able to travel, to see your parents, whatever it is. But it feels like you're far enough away where it's not easy to go home. So it's not easy to go home in many ways, where I guess I'm saying it feels like it's not easy to go back to what's familiar and what's comfortable. So you're adjusting, and there's this feeling of adjusting not being as easy as you thought, because you didn't even realize that even the servants you had at your old place, like your bodyguards or whatever, it's like even your bodyguards, like the people that you, at first we were talking about you needed space from, you're finding that you miss, because now you're in this new place, you have new bodyguards, you have new, like, servants or handmaid, whatever they call them, all these new people that need to be learned. Like, you need to know their name, you need to learn their personality, you have to adjust, and where there may be some pleasure in the challenge or in the newness, there's more hardship, there's more feelings of missing home. Like, so the more you have to acclimate to this new environment, the more you miss the comforts of your home. And this can mean a few things. One, it can mean that you really are someone that appreciates people that you know and love. Like you might really appreciate them. It might even mean to the point where you might be clingy or over possessive of them, but not in a bad way, just like in a not wanting to let them go away, or like making sure that the people you love know you love them. Like, even though they already know, you might have to, like, you might feel like you have to prove it in some way, like by doing extra favors, you might be a people pleaser in that way, you know what I mean? And if not, that's fine, but that's just what might come of this kind of thing that I'm feeling here. On another branch, there might be something about change or adjusting. Either one, you came back into this current life and you're very good at adjusting and very, very good at change. You're capable, you're able to do it because you went through it here and you learned the lesson. Or you can come back with the opposite effect where you just don't like change. You like tradition, you like to keep it as it is, if it ain't broke, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because this person here really didn't like it. So our souls can come back and experience either really the same kind of thing or like the opposite. So that's what can come from here too. Now, what this is also indicating too is that something about your friends, it feels very much like you don't have many friends once you moved, and instead you made friends out of the people who serve you. So you could be someone in this life who very much connects to not the underdog, but you can connect to people on various levels, whether it's a homeless person or whether it's someone who's very, very poor or whether it's someone who's very, very rich. You know what I mean? You might be someone that just knows how to move about the different factions of society. You might be very good at that as far as communication goes, as far as empathy goes, as far as understanding that people all come from different places and that you value them for who they are and their contribution to this, to society in whatever way they can. Basically, you might be what I want to say is you see people's value no matter who they are or where they come from, if that makes sense. So if you connect with that, great. If not, that's fine. That just feels like what's coming through. There is something else I wanted to mention here. What was it? Okay. So that's what it was. So this move that we see from the old to the new, having to adjust and finding it difficult. This can also be very metaphorical for what's going on right now. There's a huge energy shift happening. It's been going on for a few years now. People are coming into their awakening, if you've heard. And there's this whole New Earth theory, which you might want to look into. It's very interesting. So this might be coming up because you might be someone that's finding yourself over the past few years going through a massive shift. And it can be physical as well as emotional and spiritual and mental. So you might have been, let's say, a couple of years ago, you might have been a meat eater and you find now you are going vegetarian. Or a couple of years ago, you might have had one perspective on an issue, and over the past couple of years, you find that you've shifted your perspective. Things like that. Or you could be someone who finds that you're developing gifts, intuitive gifts. All of a sudden, you might be seeing spirit, or you might be becoming interested in reading auras or seeing energy or things like that. Like, you might basically over the past couple years, you might be part of what this huge shift is happening, what this big energy shift happening in the past few years. So you might be finding yourself part of that, and if you don't know about it, look it up, and this might explain it. Or two, if you know about it, this just might be reassurance that you are indeed going through that energy shift. So keep that in mind, okay? Now the death card here is the disease card. Oop, wait, there we go. The disease card, or the illness card. So I'm just trying to feel out what we have here. So it feels like it's older. We're looking at someone who has wrinkles. We're looking at someone who's older. You've lived a full life. We're looking at, I want to say, okay. Sorry, just coming. I mean, I feel like we're looking at someone who's like at least 70, like at least. So we're looking at an older person. And I feel like what's coming through is a disease or illness, whatever, having to do with aging, but not like arthritis or anything, like not like what we typically think of aging, but it feels like it's like an accumulation of something that eventually makes you very tired, and the tiredness eventually overcomes you. So we're looking at someone who's slowing down, almost like this depression thing. It was like a slow depression, and it's like it almost like continued till it slowed you down, if that makes sense. So how that can come, because I mean it feels like you eventually just pass, you know, in your sleep, so it's not like you're hurting or anything, it just feels like you're slowing down. So in your current life you might find that you have chronic fatigue, that you get tired easily, that you possibly get dizzy sometimes, maybe like a vertigo kind of thing, but mostly it's the chronic fatigue and possibly dehydration. So if anything, I would say drink more water if you can, or if you feel like you don't get enough water, drink more water. And the tiredness, if you do get this chronic fatigueness, it's almost like you can take care of that because it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing kind of thing. Like you might like feel like, oh, I have to change my diet or something, but it feels more like it's like a mental thing. So it's almost like a message. If this speaks to you, the message would be find something stimulating in your life, and it's something about finding, like, following what excites you, what you're passionate about, and when you do that, the fatigue will go away, if that makes sense. But yeah, and if you don't, experience that, great, that's awesome. So here we have the lesson card. This is the Dream Big card. There we go. Dream big. Ooh, real big. Okay, so what we're looking at here is this person was not able to dream big. That's why we're getting this card. We're looking at a life here where she lived big. She lived a big life. Lavish. Decadent. But she wasn't able to really dream big. She wasn't able to formulate things in her head and follow through as far as making plans and doing things she wanted to do, like creating her own life, basically. So she was able to like sew and do all the things that women do, but that's it. Like there was something very confining about this life and restrictive. And so this card is coming through as a message for you in your current life to really go after your dreams, your passions, what excites you. This would be the time. It could be as simple as, honestly, it could be as simple as choosing to create the family you've created, because this person couldn't create the family she wanted. She had to create a family that she was told to create, right? So it could be that simple, where your passion might be your family, but it's bigger than that too. It's also whatever comes into your head, what you want to do it. Like, no excuses. If you want to take a class in something, take it. If you want to learn something, learn what you want to learn. Go travel where you want to travel. Don't hold yourself back. The only thing holding you back in this life would be yourself. And that's actually a beautiful thing, because that means that you have the control to let that go. Here, you couldn't let it go. You were controlled. You didn't hold yourself back. Society held you back. Everyone else held you back. What's beautiful is this life, only you can hold yourself back, which means only you have the key to open the gate and walk through it and live your life, live your passions, follow your heart, follow your dreams, dream big, do what you want. You can create your own business. You can travel across the world. You can help people. You can help yourself. You can be an artist. You can learn how to ride a horse. You know what I mean? Like you can do whatever the heck you want in this life. So this message really, it says dream big, but it's more like, don't you dare hold yourself back, because you'd be the only one doing it. Nothing else but you. And again, that's a wonderful thing, knowing that, because that means that you're the one that can make it happen too, which is awesome. So there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections. There's one more thing that came through to be aware of, is something about what came through strongly was the bodyguard thing, being watched over, security, whatever it was, could be that one of your children, if you find that one of your children is especially overprotective of you, either now or as they grow up, that person could have been linked to you. It felt very much like there is a linking between you and another family member that is very overprotective and watchful in a way where they really shouldn't be, such as your child should not be overprotective of a parent, you know what I mean? So if there is, one of your children you find is just more clingy, more overprotective, sorry, I can't speak today, overprotective, watchful of you, keep that in mind. Just something to have in the back of your mind, because I feel like there's a link here between a bodyguard of sorts, someone that watched over you and cared for you or made sure you were safe, and someone in your current life. That's just something that came through. It usually doesn't come through that way, but it just did, and I wanted to mention it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for letting me read you.